It is 900 a.m. Tuesday, January 20th, 2026. And if you have physical silver in your possession, the ground beneath your feet has fundamentally shifted while the rest of the world was nursing a holiday hangover. The independent financial architecture of the United States took a fatal hit just hours ago. Fed Chair Jerome Powell sat before a camera, visibly shaken, and admitted the impossible. The Department of Justice has served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas, effectively placing a criminal target on his back. Powell fired back, calling it a calculated coup to gut the Fed's autonomy, and the markets reacted with violence. Gold just smashed through the $4,737 ceiling, and silver gapped up to $9,534 the moment trading began. But before you start counting your newfound wealth, you need to see the cage that has been built around you. As of this morning, President Trump has triggered the emergency protocols of the Defense Production Act. This happened because silver was quietly reclassified as a national security mineral late last year. That isn't just bureaucratic jargon, it is a weaponized legal designation under these wartime powers. The state can now commandeer industrial stockpiles for military and AI development, pushing your private property rights to the back of the line. The Defense Production Act is a relic of the Korean War, designed to let the president seize the reins of industry during a crisis. In plain English, it means the government can force companies to tear up their contracts with you and fulfill federal orders first. For the silver investor, this establishes a shadow hierarchy. Strategic stockpiling and government contracts now legally supersede the private market. They aren't going to send soldiers to kick down your door and take your bullion. That is an antiquated fear. The modern method of control is far more subtle. They use tax codes and market friction to render your assets immobile, steering the flow of metal exactly where they want it. They haven't built a wall, they've built a digital prison. If you are sitting on silver bars or rounds, you are walking blindfolded into a 50% IRS confiscation event when you combine the 28% federal collectibles tax with the new state-level security surcharges. The government effectively becomes a partner entitled to half of your legacy the second you try to sell. Silver is no longer just a commodity. This morning it is a contested zone, and if you don't understand the new rules of warfare here at The Secret History of Currencies, you have already been defeated. Let's rewind the tape to see the trap being set on November 7, 2025. While the country was distracted by election fallout, the U.S. Geological Survey slipped a notice into the Federal Register that rewrote the future. Silver was formally added to the critical minerals list, sitting right next to uranium and lithium. Consider the weight of that. The government effectively declared that the coins in your safe are the oxygen of the American economy.
This wasn't a paperwork error. It was the result of months of economic wargaming by the USGS, concluding that a silver shortage would bring American industry to its knees. Why the sudden panic? Because silver has evolved beyond a store of wealth. It is the nervous system of the future economy. You need 20 grams for every solar panel. You need a kilogram for every electric vehicle. The massive data centers powering the AI revolution are stuffed with silver-laden components. Our defense contractors need it for missile guidance and radar arrays. We import 64% of what we use. When a superpower relies on foreign supply for 2/3 of the material needed to power its grid, its military, and its tech sector, that material ceases to be an asset and becomes a vulnerability. When a resource is flagged as critical to national security, the line between private ownership and public necessity blurs. We watched this happen with oil reserves and semiconductors. Once the critical infrastructure label is applied, emergency powers hover overhead like a drone. The moment Powell spoke, the vaults in London and New York witnessed a run on physical metal, not seen since the last great currency collapse. Industrial titans skipped the futures markets entirely, going straight to the vault operators and demanding immediate possession. When the sharks of the industry decide that paper contracts are effectively toilet paper, they move with terrifying speed. Tesla, realizing that their EV production lines are dead in the water without silver, has reportedly cut side deals with South American miners. The defense industry is doing the exact same thing, locking in multi-year forward contracts. These aren't speculators gambling on a chart. These are billion-dollar entities ensuring their own survival because they know the public markets are about to run dry. But the Powell subpoena is only one jaw of the vice 3 days ago. President Trump made a geopolitical move that incinerated 70 years of trade stability. On January 17th, he threatened 8 European nations, our oldest allies, with immediate tariffs unless they backed his bid to acquire Greenland, France, Germany, the UK, the Nordic states, all facing a 10% tariff on February 1st, ramping up to 25% by June. Europe is already drafting a $100 billion retaliation package. This trade war is the mortar in the digital wall being built around your silver when you mix tariffs with a critical mineral status. Moving metal across borders becomes a legal minefield. If silver is essential for national defense, and we are in an economic Cold War with Europe exporting, it becomes an act of betrayal. The digital fence is already active. Dealers are reporting that international shipments now trigger compliance audits that didn't exist 6 months ago. It's what we call a soft blockade, making the process so painful and bureaucratic the trade simply stops. This is the nightmare scenario for the American silver holder, the transition from a free market asset to a controlled strategic reserve. Your ability to cash out at a fair price is vanishing, not because the price is dropping, but because the machinery of the market is being dismantled. The COMEX is bleeding out registered silver inventories. The metal actually available to settle contracts have plummeted 70% since 2020. The cupboard is bare at the very institution supposed to set the price. Industrial giants are bypassing the COMEX entirely, which screams that the paper price and the physical price are divorcing. So here is the landscape. Silver is a critical mineral. The Fed chair is facing indictment.
The trap is elegant. They make selling legally too expensive and selling illegally too risky. The result? You hold the metal, you become an unpaid storage facility for the nation's strategic reserve. However, there are escape routes. We discuss these strategies deeply here on The Secret History of Currencies, and you need to understand them now. The first is the two-tier market. Not all silver is born equal. American Silver Eagles legal tender under Title 31 are exempt from the 1099B reporting requirement. You can sell 10,000 ounces of Eagles and the dealer remains silent. You still owe the tax, but the automatic alarm bell to the IRS doesn't ring that premium you pay for Eagles. It's not for the design, it's the price of privacy. In a world of digital fences, privacy is the most valuable commodity. The second, and far more potent strategy, is the Roth Shield. This is the use of a self-directed Roth IRA. You can hold physical silver in this structure, and because it is a Roth, the growth is tax-free forever. Let's run the numbers. You buy $30,000 of silver, it jumps to $95,000. In a taxable account, the government takes $29,000 of your profit. In a Roth Shield, you keep every single penny. If silver hits the tariff floor prices, we are projecting $112 or $145. The tax savings are enough to buy a house, but the Roth Shield is a forward-looking defense. You cannot put old silver into a new IR without triggering a tax event. This is for new positions or for those willing to sell. Pay the tax now and rebuy inside the fortress, and don't worry about locking up your money. You can always withdraw your principal from a Roth tax-free. It gives you the upside of the explosion without the shrapnel of the taxman. You must understand the pricing disconnect happening right now. The screen says silver is $95. In Dubai, physical bars are moving at $130. In Tokyo, dealers are asking $135. This is a $35 spread between the paper fantasy and the physical reality. The arbitrage is broken because the metal is trapped behind the digital fence, and the tariff floor is about to raise the stakes. On February 1st, the 10% tariff kicks in for a European buyer to break even on American silver. The price effectively has to be $112. By June, with 25% tariffs, that floor moves to $145. These aren't guesses. This is the math of trade wars. If the price doesn't rise to meet the tariff, trade stops. The U.S. is structurally short on silver. We cannot survive without imports, so the price must rise or the factories shut down. So here we stand. The paper price is a lie. The physical price is the truth. The tariff floor is the inevitability, and the government has built a tax trap to capture your gains. This is not a drill. The window to reposition is closing. You can switch to Eagles for privacy. You can build a Roth Shield for tax immunity. Or you can do nothing and let the state take half your wealth. The choice is yours, but you cannot say you weren't warned. The silver market has transformed from a casino into a fortress. The digital fence is live. The tariffs are 12 days away. You have the map to navigate this minefield provided by the secret history of currencies. Don't let your friends and family walk into this ambush blind. Share this intel. The rules have changed, and the only way to win is to move before the lock clicks shut. We are threatening our allies with economic warfare. The vaults are empty and the price is skyrocketing, but the price on the screen is a distraction. The real story is the regulatory cage tightening around you, the IRS tax ambush. I mentioned isn't new legislation, it's a dormant virus in the tax code that has suddenly woken up because of these price levels. The 50% seizure is not a scare tactic. It is the mathematical result of current law. Let's look at the forensic evidence of the market's death. Yesterday's COMEX report shows a system in slow motion collapse. Registered inventory is down to 30 million ounces, a shadow of the 100 million ounces we saw 5 years ago. But the terrifying part is the leverage. There are paper claims on 900 million ounces of silver, but only 30 million ounces to back them up. That is a 30-to-1 leverage ratio. For every ounce of real silver, there are 30 people holding a piece of paper claiming they own it. In a calm market, this is a pyramid scheme that works in a crisis. It's a game of musical chairs where the music has already stopped. We are hearing whispers from the bullion networks that industrial buyers demanding delivery last week were offered cash bribes to walk away. The exchange is paying people not to take their metal. When a delivery market pays you to not take delivery, it is broken. It is a desperate attempt to hide the fact that the vault is an echo chamber. Tesla and the Dodd aren't waiting for the default. They are securing supply at the source. This is modern requisitioning. The government doesn't seize your silver, they just monopolize the supply chain so that your silver has nowhere to go but to them on their terms. Now we need to talk about the financial guillotine waiting for you. The 50% tax hit is real under Internal Revenue Code Section 408. Silver is a collectible. It is taxed like an oil painting or a baseball card capped at a punishing 28%. Add the 38% net investment income tax if you're a high earner and you're at 318%. Then comes the state in California, add 133%. In New York, almost 11%. Do the math, you are looking at a tax bill that eats 45% to 50% of your profit. This has always been the law, but nobody cared when silver was cheap. Now that silver has doubled and you're looking at life-changing gains. The IRS is waiting to take half of it. To make matters worse, the surveillance GRID has been activated. The reporting threshold for dealers buying back generic bars and rounds is 1,000 ounces. Sell that amount and a Form 1099-B goes straight to the IRS with your social security number attached. Enforcement on this was lax for years now. It is a priority audit target for 2026. The days of off-the-books liquidation are over. If you try to structure your sales selling a little bit at a time to stay under the radar, you are committing a federal crime called structuring, and the algorithms will catch you.